Hello everybody and welcome back to another Path of Exile 2 video. Wanted to go over the latest patch that came out following Zizarin's interview with the developers. They made a bunch of changes to monster speed, some boss changes, some minion changes, which sound like they're sort of interesting. I want to talk about that in a second. Some crafting changes and some other things. So the charm changes is going to be a big one. That's like a major thing. But we'll go down these really quick. I'm not going to read through the list. You can do that yourself. I just want to talk about an overall high level view of what these changes are doing. So first and foremost, what they're really trying to pull back on the ability of certain monsters to be able to just run after you and just constantly hit you as you're moving through the map, forcing you to turn around and fight them. I know that Jonathan said during, or one of them said, I don't remember who said, one of them said during the interview that they didn't want fighting to be optional, and I personally disagree with that philosophy. As a player, I should have the agency to decide whether I want to engage in a fight or run away, so that's my point of view. But it seems like they're pulling back on that a little bit, so that's good. And they've also removed the haste aura from monsters that already have a high movement speed, so that's really good. You can read through the individual changes here. The big one for me right now is just that they removed the overall density of the more challenging monsters in Ogam Manor, because it is a tight space and it's hard to move around. And like, I got insta-killed by the stupid blood on the ground thing that happened, because 3 of them happened to appear right under me immediately, and I didn't have a chance to roll out of the way or do anything, just died. It was really frustrating. But yeah, just a lot of stuff that's getting adjusted as far as movement effects go, so those are really good. I personally, aside from a couple of examples, I personally have never had much of an issue with monster movement speed, so I'm interested to see how that's going to affect my perception of monster movement speed, because I never really found it to be much of an issue, but apparently a lot of people have found it to be a problem, so there you go. The biggest thing, the most annoying boss, absolutely for me, is Viper Napawatsi. And so what they did was they went in and lowered the amount and size of the chaos reigns in the fight and cleaned up the visual effects to make it easier to follow where that's going to happen, to where further hits are going to fall on the ground. And that's great, but to be perfectly honest with you, the thing that makes the Viper Napawatsi fight hard is not the AoE effects. I mean, it significantly adds to the difficulty, and this is definitely something that needs to happen. But the thing that makes that fight super hard, that makes it the hardest fight in the game right now, at least as far as what I've experienced, is the spears. The spears almost always insta-kill you if you're unlucky enough to get hit by it, and it's really hard to anticipate them, and it's really hard to anticipate them visually just to see them sometimes with all the crap that's going on. But then sometimes you can't roll out of the way and not roll into the stuff that's happening on the ground. And so I've always said that they need to make it one or the other. She's either doing her AoE stuff on the ground, and you're having to focus on avoiding that, or they're hitting you with the spears and you need to focus on avoiding that. I don't necessarily have I do. I have a problem with anything that's a one-shot hit. The spears can be like a massive hit to your character, but it should no one ability from a boss should ever be able to one-shot you. I disagree with that philosophy, because it doesn't allow any room for mistakes at all. You get hit by the wrong get hit by the wrong thing and you're just done. The fight's over. You have to start over again. That's super frustrating. So this is a good change. They should do this, but in addition to that, they need to find some kind of mechanism that makes the spears a little bit easier to deal with. Not necessarily like nerf it, really. I mean, maybe, I don't know, but just something that makes it a little bit easier to follow where those spears are going to come from, like what direction they're going to ripple in, that kind of stuff. Because it's just really, really hard, especially if you're already in the middle of dealing with Napawatsi herself and the AoE crap that she's throwing around. It's really, really hard to find that. These two fights right here, the Uxmal and Zyclusian fight, are kind of similar. They both basically use kind of similar mechanics, and it's great that they've reduced the number of times that he changes his location throughout the fight, because it is kind of annoying to have to run around the map trying to chase him down. And yeah, he shouldn't be able to recharge his energy shield while he's flying around, because it's just, it just drags the fight down. I never really had much of a problem with his flame breath issue, but I mean, it's great when they start reducing things that drag the fight out, because you're having to dodge, roll around, and avoid that. I really want them to do the same thing to this guy here. It's like Zyclusian, the guy that's outside of the temple in Act 3. outside of the Jaquani's Machinarium or whatever. This is probably, I don't want to say, like, this is the hardest fight. This is one of the more annoying fights that are just, dude, he's constantly flying up in the air. You run over, you smash him a few times, and then instantly he's up in the air, and you're like, okay, let me twiddle my thumbs and wait for him to come back down. I don't mind that. I wouldn't mind it so much if the time he spent unhittable was drastically reduced. Like, if he wants to fly up, like, let's say let's say instead of flying up and running around, he flies up, he does his little ice run, and then instantly falls back on the ground, and I can start attacking him again. That would be much, much better than the way that it works now. I think that it needs to be something along the lines of he's either doing his ice strafing run, or he's hopping onto the pillar to do a bunch of things for a couple of seconds, and then he's back on the ground again so you can fight him. I really I don't want to say I dread this fight, because I don't dread it. It's just, I sigh in irritation when I get to this fight, because it's just like, God, I got to sit here and this is such a pointless fight, and it's pointlessly long. So really hoping that they take the changes that they made to this guy and apply it to this guy, because it's the same fight, just in a different place. Player minion changes have been adjusted so that your minions will basically revive a lot more frequently, which is good. I don't necessarily agree with the way that they chose to do it. I believe that each minion should have their own individual timer, and if they want to set that to 7.5 seconds, fine. But I don't like that basically you have to wait for the timer to go out before you get any minions back. I don't understand the concept behind that. It's great that they're making it so that your minions will come back faster. Don't get me wrong. I'm glad that that's happening. But at the same time, you know, if you have a minion die and the timer goes to 7.5 seconds, and then another minion dies shortly after that, like, what if you get to 7.5 seconds and then your another minion dies, right? And then instantly after that, like, it still leaves open the door for you being defenseless being defenseless and not having your wall of minions in front of you for a period of time. And I don't know. I don't really agree with the basic premise of how this works. I'm glad that they're adjusting it so that they come back faster, but I really think each minion should have their own revive timer. That's just kind of how I feel about it. I don't know too much about these effects here, so I'm not really going to talk about them. I'm really glad that they added more rune ability for, like, the caster weapons, so now you can put them on wands and staves, which is really nice. I think that one of the, I don't know if this is, I don't want to say unintended, but I think one of the major things that could change in the game that would make this game, that would give you a lot more agency, is this right here. If they made this like the default way that things work. They're saying that Renly's abandoned shop in the Burning Village now has a blank rune that Renly can forge into any elemental rune of your choosing if you didn't find any. So here's my thing about that. I think that this actually is a really good idea just in general. I think that in general, you should get blank runes that the only thing that should drop should just be blank runes that you then craft into whatever rune that you want. I think that would mitigate a lot of the crafting anxiety that a lot of people have when they really want to try to get things exactly figured out the way that they want them. Being able to just say, I have a blank rune, just like your gems, right? Just like your skill gems and your support gems, make the runes craftable so that you can just take the rune and make it whatever you need it to be. Rather than having to wait on a random drop, rather than having to wait on this, it's already enough of a random thing to just have to wait on a drop in general. Make it to where we can craft those runes ourselves and turn them into whatever we need it to be. That would be absolutely a major crafting upgrade that would be a significant game changer in general for the positive. I really think that would be a really good idea. And then the last big thing I want to talk about, I don't really care about the stash tab affinities because, it's great to be able to put those exactly where you want them. But realistically, I don't really have much of an issue with a lot of this stuff here. So I don't know. The bookmark, we'll talk about the charm changes in a second. Atlas bookmarks, a lot of people have been complaining about the Atlas in Path of Exile 2. I personally like the overland travel feel that this Atlas gives us. I was never a big fan of the very limited scope of the Atlas tree in Path of Exile 1. I know a lot of people want to feel like they completed the Atlas, but me personally, I like the idea of adventure. I like the idea of adventuring overland and visiting different areas and, endlessly traveling. I think that's kind of a cool idea. So I really hope they don't change it to something else. I just think that they need to make it much easier to traverse the Atlas over long distances once you start opening up a lot of different areas on the Atlas. So, you know, increasing the scroll speed of the map, drastically increasing the ability to zoom out of the map so you can move around faster. Just make it easier to navigate the map, and I think that will alleviate a lot of people's issues with the way that the Atlas map works right now. So the last thing I want to talk about is the charm changes, which is going to be a massive, like this right here, all by itself is going to be something that drastically reduces a lot of the irritation and frustration and the foreshadowing I saw when they released the patch before patch 0.2 dropped. The charm, they're basically going to make it so that at certain levels, the belts that drop will automatically have a certain number of charms. So once you get up to 32 and levels 32 to 64, all the belts that drop will have 2 charm slots automatically. And then from 65 up, you will always get a belt that has 3 charm slots. That is completely awesome, because now with 3 charm slots, you can choose which 3 things you want to mitigate. So for me, since I don't like crowd control anything, I will always have some kind of a stun immunity charm that I put on there, and a freeze immunity charm that I put on there. And then the third thing will just be whatever particular flavor I'm trying to avoid for whatever it is that I have going. This right here, this section right here, or actually just this particular line right there, that makes a massive, that has, I can't even come up with the words to describe how big of an awesome thing that this is. This is going to completely change. I mean, assuming that they fix the thing where immunities don't work sometimes. I mean, I have been frozen when I'm wearing an immunity to freeze charm. That's a bug that needs to be fixed. But assuming that works, this gives us the ability to seriously mitigate the crowd control effects that I cannot stand. And I'm telling you, after many times through the campaign and a bunch of times running through maps and stuff like that, I never once found a belt that had more than 1 charm slot on it. And the fact that they're making it to where this is going to be the way that it is, honestly, I don't even know. I cannot overstate how big of a change this is. Like, this is going to be something that a lot of people are going to look at it and be like, oh, that's cool. No, this is a massive change. And, you know, it almost mitigates all of the nerfing things that they did. Almost. I'm not going to say that it does, but it almost does. So yeah, and several charms were not protecting you from a hit that activated, and this is the bug that's what I was just talking about. Hopefully this right here has actually fixed that. So yeah, charms are one of those things that I just kind of like. I found the one charm that gave me immunity to whatever I wanted, and I didn't really care about any of the other implicits and stuff it had on it because it didn't really do anything. But now that you can have a couple of them, man, I'm actually mildly excited about this one particular item for the entire thing. So I've gone on about that enough. I just wanted to go over this real quick because you know, I had a lot of bad things to say about the patch, and initially when it launched, I still had no intention of playing this patch. But then they started announcing some things that, you know, were starting to fix some stuff. I was like, all right, let me install the game, and I want to try out the Huntress just because, you know, it's a new thing. Let's see how it goes. And I quit when I got to the King of the Mist because he was just such a pain in the ass. Like, I have to say, the fighting in this version of the game is definitely a lot less satisfying than it was in the first patch. Even with all of these changes, I don't think that's going to fix that. I'm not a fan of the massively slowed down pace of like progressing through the maps at this point. Just a campaign. I haven't even gotten out of Act 1 yet, and I'm still like, ugh, this is such a slog compared to what it used to be. Maybe that's just because I have previous experience in the game. I don't know. But I just honestly feel like I've been through the campaign so many, and this kind of highlights my point. I've been through the campaign so many times, I don't want to have to take my time to get through it. Let's get through the campaign. I want to get the maps. I want to get to the part where my character is powerful and, you know, I'm grinding through and getting up gear and currency and all that stuff for my other characters. I realize the first time you play through each of your characters, it's technically supposed to take you a little bit longer because you're not geared up. But at the same time, it's like, how many times are we going to go through this campaign? I don't want it to take a long time. I want to get through it and move on. The new players are going to be slow from the beginning because they don't know anything yet. The faster players should be able to just blast through the campaign and get to the maps. It's just the way it should be. But setting that aside, all of the changes being made here are good changes. I just think a couple of them missed the mark. The Napawati fight, they have to look at the spears for that one. I almost never die from the rain. I always die from the spear. If I die in that fight, it's because the spears got me. That's the only time I've ever died in that fight. So that's something that needs to be done. These guys need to be made a little bit less annoying, especially this guy here. And then, yeah, I don't know. Anyways, that's what I wanted to talk about. Hopefully that made sense. Be sure to click the like button, subscribe to help us reach 10,000 subscribers. Join as a member for early access to videos, among other perks, or you can just leave YouTube's version of a tip with that thanks button. Also have PayPal and Patreon links in the description if you'd like to go that route. So again, thanks for watching. Be sure to come back for the next video, and I'll see you then.